Hey, it's Ron from Ron Reviews Movies. And I just recently got a communication from one of my friends on Facebook. He was stating that he was watching Cobra Kai. And he remembered that I reviewed The Karate Kid a couple of weeks prior. And he wanted me to do a YouTube movie. So here it is coming just for him. Originally, this was posted on 8/8/2020 on YouTube. The movie is The Karate Kid from 1984. Now, certainly, this is one of the classic movies you think of when you think of 80s movies like Top Gun, Ghostbusters, Footloose, etc. It's a story about Daniel Brusso, who's played by Ralph Macchio, and he moves from New Jersey to Los Angeles because his mom, Lucille Russo, played by Randy Hiller, finds a job there. It's important to state that the parents are divorced here, and there was a very negative stigma, even though divorce was on the rise in the early 1980s, and kids were paying the price for their parents being divorced. A reason I don't know why, but there were a lot of negative connotations to these people, and I knew about somewhere between 60 and 80% of my friends had divorced parents, and some of them remarried. So that was just weird to me, that there was be a negative stereotype for something these kids never did anything, right? So moving on, Daniel finds himself invited to go to the beach by a neighbor, and he hangs out with his friends, and then, he looks over and he sees a group of girls, and he's like, wow, that's a really attractive woman over there. I'd like to get to know her. And then we see her looking over at Daniel, and we kind of see the similar, welcoming, glances and stuff. It's cute, they're flirting, right? So eventually Daniel gets the gumption up to go talk to this girl, and we find out her name is Allie with an I, Mills, played by Elizabeth Shue. But we also find out that she's got some drama following her, which is a former boyfriend, Johnny Lawrence, played by William Zabka. It just won't let her go. Sure. This is Elizabeth Shue we're talking about here. Who could blame him? She's one of the most attractive women of the 1980s, and she seems really nice. So, yeah, obviously, he wouldn't want to just let her go. It looks like he's not done fighting for her yet, right? But Johnny doesn't like Daniel moving in on his girl. And Daniel finds himself woefully outmatched by Johnny's karate skills, and he finds himself face down in the sand and really embarrassed. And he wants to just, go home, back to Jersey. He feels that embarrassed. But he says this to his mom, at the apartment complex, where Mr. Miyagi, played by Pat Morita, overhears the conversation, and he hears that Daniel wants to learn how to do karate. And he says it in that broken English style, which I know a lot of people in my generation absolutely love. I know I love the kung fu movies with the lip syncs. They were just out of sync. But it was our introduction to the Asian culture, and we thought it was funny, but it was also we revered it at the same time. So that was kind of interesting. So Mr. Miyagi approaches Daniel and says, "You want to learn karate?" And Daniel says, "Yes, I do." So Mr. Miyagi immediately puts him to work, painting the fence, sanding the floor, painting the house, wax on, wax off. All of these menial chores. And then Daniel kind of gets a little bit upset, and it's like, "I want to learn karate from you, but you're having me do all these chores." And Mr. Miyagi says, "Show me paint the fence." And then he shows him paint the fence, and he's blocking, right? Mr. Miyagi is showing Daniel that he is learning these moves, but it's in an unorthodox manner, and that's I think that's great, because if you want to learn something, you want to learn it without having anything else color your education. So Daniel didn't know he was learning, but he was learning. So we move on a little bit. At the same time that Daniel is learning how to do his karate, he's got a budding romance with Allie, and he shows her respect, not treating her like a prize. which I often saw in, young men and women of the 1980s. Women accepted their role as the prize, and men wanted their girlfriends to be the prize that they beat all the other guys to get. And I was glad to see that Daniel treated Allie like an equal. And it shows up further later in the story when Daniel gets a car for his birthday. This is an old car from Mr. Miyagi. And he wants Allie to drive his car. And in the 1980s, girls weren't seen as good of drivers as boys. And, it was pretty much pervasive at the time. I think some of that is true today, but it's not as prevalent as it was in the 1980s. Like, if you were driving anywhere and it was either a man or a woman driving, it would almost always be the man driving in it. I'm glad to see that this movie started to break that mold and kind of push this whole men and women are equal when it comes to things like this. So the movie carries on, right? And we see a bunch of drama that leads up to a final showdown between Johnny and Daniel, where Sensei John Kreese, played by Martin Kove, instructs his pupils to fight dirty, so dirty, in fact, that his pupils would get expelled from the tournament. Because he wanted his dojo to win by any means necessary, right? And the kids were just, the kids in his dojo were just kind of upset, and he, whipped him in the line. You got a problem with that? And no, sensei, And then, of course, the final battle comes down between Johnny and Daniel, and Daniel defeats Johnny with the crane kick, right? And then everything is all right. Johnny immediately gets up from getting his butt kicked, and he says, "You're all right. You're an okay guy," and kind of blows off his sensei because he basically was telling him to be immoral to win. So what I thought about this movie back then, wow. I thought this movie was a great underdog movie where the outsider overcomes adversity, proves through hard work and perseverance that he can achieve anything, and he'll get the girl, which is exactly what I would expect from a juvenile that I was back then. What I think about this movie now, though, it's I think, wow, what a great mentor-pupil story. It's a story that transcends culture, wherein Mr. Miyagi imparts not just learning karate, but how to be a man. And the movie isn't about kicking butt. It's about learning how to solve problems. And one of the best ways to learn how is from someone who has already basically faced the same changes, the same challenges that you did, right? People should see this movie kind of like how older people and younger people can work with each other, so that older people can teach the younger people how to do the things they want to do. And there's a generational respect there, and I just don't see that as much today in the United States. All right, scoring. Plot, 5 stars. Outsiders always seem to have problems fitting in, and romance is always a minefield. Youth usually sees anything foreign or strange as a threat. And usually kids have a problem, losing something they value. Showdowns like this happen everywhere, in every country, all over the world, every day. Character, 5 stars. Daniel, Johnny, Allie, Mr. Miyagi, almost all of the cast. They grow as people through the story. They're motivated by real-world drama. And even though the movie is centered around fighting, there is a strong narrative of compassion, love, and learning how to adapt to challenges. Believability, 5 stars. You go anywhere, and you're going to find boys fighting over girls. Yeah, outsiders trying to fit in. The dialogue is as real as it's as though the characters were told to ad-lib when it felt awkward to them. Just go as the character. Do the whole method acting thing right here, with a plot point they had to hook it to at the end, right? So also, I see that Allie is kind of the unsung heroine here. She sees something in Daniel that he doesn't, and she backs him even though Daniel acts a bit juvenile at times, and even though he doesn't believe in himself, she believes in him, and I like that as friends, and I truly believe that in order to be someone's a true love, you need to be their friend. So, soundtrack, 4 stars. Now, sure, this is the movie where "You're the Best" came from Joe Esposito. But apart from that, the movie was kind of lacking in music. I mean, which had lesser hits like "Young Hearts" by Commuter, and then of course not on the soundtrack was "Cruel Summer" by Bananarama on the opening credits. Why it's not on the soundtrack, I don't know. So my scoring is 19 out of 20, but don't let the soundtrack hold you back. This movie had a lot of magic in it, and it's the first of 5 movies to bear the Karate Kid name. What I hope that people get from this movie is that violence should always be the last resort. Mentorship is supremely important for our youth to become good people. And damn it, listen to your elders. They just might have something helpful to apply to your experience in life. Okay, so that's my movie review for Karate Kid. And so if you like it, if you like what I have to say, please, like and subscribe and all those wonderful things that you can do out there. If you don't like it, please just don't engage. Just don't be a troll. Just go. Just don't do anything. Right? If it's not for you, carry on. However, if you think these reviews can help people, please share it with them. Thank you.